Well, we want to welcome everybody back to one of our little talks here. And this week we celebrate the music of Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald. And as you know, last week we got to celebrate Louis Armstrong and the older period, the Hot Five period from the 1920s. And we're really pleased and privileged to be able to sort of move to that next part of Louis Armstrong's life that we love. And probably the part that people are most familiar with. So the first part of this show, we'll do songs like Hello Dolly, What a Wonderful World. We'll reach back and get some things like Struttin' with Some Barbecue. We'll do Tiger Rag, which Louis used to do in a lot of his shows. And then what I wanted to do was bring in some of the friends that Louis had. And friends, he was always working with different musicians. And those things were memorable. And many times, rather than those things taking place on recordings, they took place on television or in the movies. I think one of the things, you know, that people always love is when Louis Armstrong, no matter how bad the movie was, when Louis Armstrong showed up, we all began to smile and he lit up the screen. And there were those pivotal moments. I have with me Dave Powers. And one of the things that Dave and I remember was in the movie High Society. And so, do you remember that moment when was it Bing Crosby?
Bing Crosby. Mm-hmm.
And he walks out and he says, what's the beginning of that? He says,
Dear Gentle Folk of Newport, because it takes place during the Newport Jazz Festival. And Bing Crosby's character brings in Louis Armstrong as the headline act. And so they start going on, and Dear Gentle Folk at Newport, or maybe I should say hats and cats, lend an ear, you'll hear some shimmering sharps and flats. And he talks about the elements that create jazz. It's fun, a lot of fun.
And I think, you know, a lot of the music from that picture was written by Cole Porter.
Cole Porter wrote all the music from that film.
I stand corrected. Cole Porter wrote all of the music from that.
Yeah, but it wasn't the first film that Bing Crosby and Louis Armstrong did together. High Society was from 1956, but 20 years before, in 1936, they were in Pennies from Heaven, and they sang that song together in that movie.
Right, right. And you're going to feature one other sort of duet, maybe a couple more. Can you tell us about the other person you chose to do?
Well, I chose to do a duet with Byron Stripling, first of all, because Byron Stripling is, you know, as Louis' character, we have a great rapport together. There was another film, Danny Kaye. Danny Kaye and Louis Armstrong were in a movie called Five Pennies, and they do a version of When the Saints Go Marching In. That's just totally classic, and Byron and I get to trade fours in a funny, hip way. It's great.
And there's one other guy you do, too.
Yes.
And Louis and this guy had, they did TV together. I don't think they recorded together.
No, they didn't make any records, but he was a guest on his show, Perry Como. Perry Como had a TV show in the late 50s, and Louis Armstrong and Perry, they did one of Perry's hits, Kokomo. We won't be doing that, but we're doing one of Perry's biggest hits.
You can tell us. They can
okay.
just drop on.
Great. Papa Loves Mambo.
So we'll do that.
It's fun.
I think you guys will remember that one if you're a fan and you're of my vintage or older. You remember some of those great songs that Louis and Perry did together, and Danny Kaye and Louis and so many others. We're excited to have Dave, and he's going to tear it up. I'm also excited to have probably one of the great singers of all time with me. It's really cool because she actually was one of the last singers with the legendary Count Basie. Count Basie hired her personally, fell in love with her. And then along that time, she was sitting on the bus, and we were on the bus together, and we were doing tours with people like Billy Eckstine, Dizzy Gillespie, Sarah Vaughan. And of course, she, during that time and before, fell in love with Ella Fitzgerald. In fact, if you watch the special on Ella Fitzgerald, they even have you on that talking about your love of her. Tell us about some of those times with Ella, the times that you were able to spend a little bit of time with her.
The first time I met Ella, I was in high school, and we were shopping at Neiman Marcus, my mom and I. And my mother said, "Hi, Ella, how are you?" Because apparently they had met before. And she said, "This is my daughter, Carmen." And Ella said, "Hi, baby, how are you?" And I said, "Fine," you know. But I met her again, of course, you know, once I started with the Basie Band, and we became friends towards the end of her life. And she was just an absolute dear.
Now, I always felt a sweetness in her voice and in her it was almost like I felt like I knew her,
Mm-hmm.
and her music is very comforting to me because I almost like, I think some people call her sis or something.
Mm-hmm.
And well, you did feel like she was kind of a sister. There was this really commonality that you had, and her music put you at ease. Did you feel that when being around her?
I did. I did. As a matter of fact, I recorded her tune, Mr. Paganini.
Mm.
And after I recorded it, my manager at the time and I went to her home, and she was kind of ill at that time, and played the CD for her and played Mr. Paganini, and she really loved it. And pardon me. After she died, they had a sale, an estate sale at her home, and I got this phone call from Carmen Lundy, jazz vocalist Carmen Lundy. And she said, "What are you doing?" She called me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, nothing." And she said, "Well, you need to come over to Ella's house right now. They're having an estate sale because there's something over here that you need to see." So I got there, and Carmen was still waiting for me, and she took me up to her bedroom. And when I looked at the bedside table, there was a CD player, and my CD was in it, and my CD was sitting next to her bed. So she had been listening to my CD for weeks, and nothing had been touched right there. So it was very touching.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I brought some of her jewelry with me to give me good luck for the show, and I'm wearing one of her gowns.
No way.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, you can see this week is going to be an incredible week for us. We're here Wednesday all the way through Sunday, 2 shows on Sunday, 2 o'clock, and also 7:30 on Sunday. And we encourage you to come out because we have really, in legends, these guys are also legends in addition to the people that we celebrate this week. So please join us for the music of Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, and some of the friends here at our concert of this week for the Columbus Jazz Orchestra. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.